Happy Valentine's Week from LilyTube. For this special love holiday, we're going to be talking about moving from friendship into love affair. So stay tuned if you'd like to see a friendship of yours become a romance. First, please take a moment to subscribe to LilyTube and hit the bell for notifications.
This video has been funded by Tether, an easier way to keep your loved ones intact. With superior tracking techniques and technology like never before, Tether takes being safe to a whole new level. Romantic love is friendship set on fire.
I really love that quote, Jeff, because it describes our relationship. So for an entire year, Jeff and I didn't date. We dated first, and then we had a year of friendship. And it not only influenced our dating relationship, but the marriage that we ended up with. So Jeff, how did it get set on fire?
Well, we were just doing things together as good friends, and at the end of that year, I took a very big risk. I wrote Cathy a letter saying that I wanted to date her for marriage, even though we hadn't been on a date in a year.
And I'm so glad that you did.
Me too.
It changed the trajectory of both of our lives.
Yep, that's for sure.
You know, Jeff, one of the best things I think we ever did was your friendship, because it built a really solid foundation of friendship. And like you said, then when we added the romance back in, it just caught fire.
Right.
Rather than us trying to create fire from not really knowing each other that well, like we did in the beginning.
Right.
And I think that's positively impacted our marriage because we know foundationally we're friends first.
Of course.
And having that foundation is fantastic for a romantic relationship that's long-term.
You know, Cathy, there's another couple I know of that are dating somewhat seriously now. They were best friends for a long time, and the woman in that relationship, who is a good friend of mine and yours, told me recently that she had to adjust the way that she was thinking about relationships because she had always gone for the physical first, the physical attraction, then hoped that the rest of the relationship would kind of catch up, and hasn't had a lot of success with that approach. In this situation, she came to love this guy first as a friend, and she ultimately grew feelings.
Okay, so almost the opposite.
Yes.
She let the friendship build and the love build, and then let the physical catch up.
Right.
Like that. You know, Jeff, I've told you this story before, but for the benefit of our audience, and for those of our viewers who are Latter-day Saints, each Sunday we partake of the sacrament. And the deacons that are aged 12 to 14 pass the sacrament. And when I was a young girl, I would look at these deacons and think, oh, they're kind of handsome. And then I would observe their behavior at school, and sometimes it wasn't always in harmony with how I saw them at church. And when that happened, I noticed that their handsomeness got just a little bit less appealing to me. And I've noticed that throughout my dating life, throughout all my adult years. I think sometimes that's something that develops later in life, but it's something that developed early for me, that people become more or less attractive depending on their own behaviors and their character and the kind of person they are. And I think it's particular how they treat people. I think that's ultimately like a sign of whether a person's really attractive, is how do they treat people.
Right.
That can be figured out over a long-term friendship. And that makes transitioning to a dating relationship so rich and really so easy. We have really good friends that in their mid to late 40s, they came together after being single all those years and not only created a really hot romance after years of friendship, but a really wonderful marriage after that dating period. And we actually interviewed them here on LilyTube, and you can check that interview out. It's called Love at Last with Dan and Emily.
Yeah, Cathy, that episode I think illustrates how a romance can grow out of a genuine and close friendship. It's very important to be honest with yourself that you are pursuing the friendship for its own sake and not just hoping it will lead to something else. You should not be bitter if it never catches fire, because many times it won't. Keep the friendship no matter what. Now, I'm going to issue a warning. Going into the friend zone deliberately hoping for more is a low percentage shot. The friend zone is an easy place to get stuck. It's also often an attempt for people to find love without risk, which never works. Even if you successfully form a friendship, one of you has to take a risk in order to take the next step into dating. Now at that point, it's even riskier because you have more to lose now, and rejection hurts worse with someone you really know well.
You know, Jeff, I think that's true, and I think that's why a lot of people won't take that risk and why people get stuck in the friend zone. So we did this video on breaking up is hard to do, and in it we talk about how to maintain friendship even when things don't work out. If you go and watch that video and you really put that in your heart, and if hopefully your dating partner does that too, then if you approach a dating relationship, a romance, if you set that friendship on fire and it doesn't work out, you can still be friends. You've already have that foundation.
Right. And don't look at the friend zone as a risk-free way to find love, because ultimately you're risking a lot more when you're telling your best friend you'd like to be something more than that. And so it's not a way to avoid risk. It's not a way to sort of ease into it, because what you're doing if you end up dating is setting yourself up for a bigger risk.
But when you have a good friend, then I think the risk, it might be greater, but you also know that person and that person cares about you.
Right.
In that way, it's less risk.
Right. If you have a mature relationship, hopefully you can be respectful to each other even if feelings are confessed like that.
So what sets a friendship on fire? In order to progress from friendship to a dating relationship, as we've talked about, someone must take a risk. People are afraid to do this because they fear losing the friendship. So you need to become very clear what you're attempting to do with changing the friendship. I mean, let's be honest, Jeff. When one or the other person gets into a serious relationship, it's going to change the friendship anyway.
Right. I mean, if you're thinking, you know, I'd really like to try dating Gertrude, my best friend. She's really great. She's awesome. But I'm a little worried that it'll make things awkward between us if she doesn't feel the same way. And so we kind of avoid that in many cases. We want to suggest something. If that relationship doesn't ever happen and you just remain friends, chances are that one or the other of you is going to get serious with somebody else. And then what happens to your friendship? It becomes more distant because naturally people are going to erect boundaries that will protect that romance, that ultimately that marriage. And so you're gonna lose her anyway. I mean, you're not gonna lose her necessarily 100%, but you're gonna find that that relationship has to become more distant over time as they bond with somebody else. So you might as well take the risk now if you really think there are possibilities there.
Well, and as we've mentioned before, you can actually, if you have a mature enough relationship, if things don't work out, you can actually go back to that foundation of friendship.
Sure.
So it's important to understand that it is not always the risk we think it is.
As I see it, Cathy, the bigger risk is that devastating feeling of rejection when someone you've grown to love says, "I'm sorry, you're not really what I want." That hurts. But taking a risk and making your feelings known also has the potential to set your relationship ablaze with passion. It's bold, it's courageous, and your partner understands that. Now, of course, it's not going to work every time. Otherwise, there would be no risk in it, right? Sometimes people try to transition from friendship to a dating relationship or romance, and the other person isn't interested. That is the risk you take. But if you already love each other as friends, the potential payoff of becoming more than friends could be enormous, life-changing.
You know, Jeff, this reminds me of the letter that you wrote me. After that year of friendship, that big risk that you took.
Felt big.
Oh yeah, and I remember in the letter he said, I will love you and care about you no matter what you choose. And that was real love. And I knew it and I could feel it. You assured me that our friendship wasn't at risk with this bold move that you made.
Right, and your maturity in receiving it, even before you decided that you wanted to date me, let me understand that things didn't have to be awkward with us, even if you chose differently.
Yeah, I think we were really good in assuring each other of, okay, if we decide to do this, or if we don't decide to do this, we're good.
Right.
So if a dating relationship does not work out, you are able to go back to the supportive friendship if your prior friendship was sincere and not merely an attempt to form a romantic relationship.
So friends, if you have an opposite sex best friend and would like it to be more, take a risk. It might be the best risk you ever took. If you've had an experience of friendship catching fire, or if you've had an experience where you tried and it didn't work, we would love to read your comments about any time you have attempted to take a friendship and make it something more. About moving from friendship to love, to setting your friendship on fire. We'd love to hear your opinions about this and your thoughts. And if you have any questions for us, you can also address those in the comment section. And remember, anytime is a great time for more love in your life.
Especially during Valentine's week.
Thank you for watching.